The mysterious vanishing of the Yuba County Five. 5 men vanished into the snow. What followed still haunts investigators today. It began on a night of stark misfortune, deep within the Plumas National Forest. It was a bone-chilling Friday, and Joseph Jones was scouting some back roads, his Volkswagen defeated by the harsh weather, leaving him hopelessly stuck around 5:30 p.m. Miles from any help, he tried to push the car out. This physical exertion delivered a cruel, sickening twist of fate, an unexpected heart attack in the absolute middle of nowhere. Later, enduring the crushing pain inside his vehicle, he caught a glimmer of hope. 2 distinct sets of headlights emerged, piercing the darkness from the opposite direction. In the beam's glare, he saw them, the eerie silhouettes of a woman, a baby, and a group of men engaged in conversation walking toward him. Hope surged, and Jones painfully dragged himself out to cry for help, pleading for a rescue. The response was immediate and utterly terrifying. The lights snapped off and the voices instantly fell silent. The figures had simply vanished. Hours crawled by. Later, with his car still running, Jones saw a flicker of distant flashlights. He scrambled out again, pleading vehemently, but was again met with failure. When his car finally ran out of gas, he felt well enough for the 8-mile trek to a lodge. It was on this walk that he saw it, a 1969 Mercury Montego, completely empty. Given the night's bewildering events, he didn't give the abandoned car much thought. Jones received his rescue, never realizing he had passed the vehicle of 5 men who would soon be known to the world, engulfed in one of history's most chilling, unresolved mysteries. February 24th marked the convergence of 5 lives bound by a shared innocence and vulnerability. The men, all participants in the rehabilitative Gateway program, were known as the Boys. A remarkably close-knit bunch struggling with mild intellectual disabilities and mental health issues. They lived structured lives at home, their parents relying on them and their nightly return. The group included Jack Madruga, 30, the car owner, financially responsible but described as slow in thought. William Sterling, 29, Jack's deeply religious best friend. Theodore Ted Wire, 32, the eldest, whose striking lack of common sense once led him to spend over $100 on pencils for no reason. Jack Hewitt, 24, often needing help with simple tasks like dialing a phone, constantly under Wire's wing. Gary Mathias, 25, the most complex, free of intellectual disability but battling severe schizophrenia. Only he and Madruga held valid driver's licenses. After cheering their favorite team to a celebratory victory, they stopped at Bear's convenience store around 10 p.m. to load up on Hostess pies and Pepsis. They briefly irritated the closing clerk, an insignificant figure who gained a terrible distinction. He was the last known person to see the group intact and alive. But the boys did not drive south toward home. Instead, the Montego inexplicably swerved east, taking a baffling detour onto the desolate Oroville-Quincy Highway, far from their planned route. They drove until the pavement died, ignoring the warning, and continued up a rough dirt trail until the car became hopelessly lodged in a snowdrift. Sometime after this, in the absolute darkness, they all abandoned the relative safety of the vehicle and walked into the freezing night. The mothers of Sterling and Wire contacted police immediately. The extended absence was deeply alarming and out of character. 5 days later, a forest ranger found the abandoned turquoise Mercury Montego at Elk's Retreat. The vehicle was a haunting contradiction. It was unlocked, a window rolled down, snack wrappers scattered, and a quarter tank of gas remained. Most unnerving of all, despite the rugged road and heavy vehicle, the car was not stuck when found, and it bore minimal damage. Why had 5 able-bodied men walked away from a functioning car? The Yuba County PD's 5-day search proved futile. A massive winter storm dumped 9 inches of snow, forcing the police to call off the operation until the spring melt. The case was frozen, leaving the desperate families with the sickening knowledge that their loved ones were alone, isolated, and entombed by the unforgiving mountains. What investigators discovered next would defy all logic. 4 agonizing months later, in June, the true horror began to unfold. Bikers discovered an abandoned Forest Service trailer near Bucks Lake. A sickening, pervasive odor led them to a broken window and inside the remote shelter. On the bed lay a body, concealed head to toe by bed sheets. It was Ted Wire. He had lost 80 pounds and grown a beard, suggesting he had taken refuge there for perhaps 2 months. His shoes were missing, and his feet were badly frostbitten. The cause of death was ruled starvation and exposure. But the scene defied all logic. The trailer was a beacon of survival, equipped with ample heat sources and canned food, enough to sustain all 5 men for months. Yet, while 12 cans were found open, the vast majority remained untouched. Ted Wire had inexplicably chosen to starve to death next to a full pantry. Furthermore, the broken window had not even been sealed off against the elements. This chilling, illogical location was a staggering 19 miles from the abandoned car. Months later, the mountain gave up its secrets, one horrifying clue at a time. The renewed search quickly uncovered the remaining victims. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found on June 8th, nearly 5 miles from the trailer. Madruga still carried the car keys in his pocket. He had been dragged a short distance and partially consumed by animals. Sterling's remains were scattered, reduced to bone. Jack Hewitt's remains were found 2 days later, not far from the trailer, along with blankets and flashlights. Investigators theorized that Hewitt and Matthias had reached the trailer and lived with Wire. Matthias's tennis shoes were found inside, supporting this. After Wire succumbed, the remaining 2 likely chose to flee the corpse and set out northeast, ultimately meeting their end exposed to Mother Nature. All the bodies were accounted for, except one. To this day, the remains of Gary Matthias have never been found. His schizophrenia, his driver's license, and his total disappearance make him the spectral center of this nightmare. His missing persons case remains open, the ultimate dark stain on the mystery. The question remains, why did they not go home? The Forbes Town link. Matthias had a friend in nearby Forbes Town. Was Madruga convinced to drive past Oroville, missing the turnoff, only to keep driving further into the treacherous mountain road? The unnatural abandonment. Madruga's mother adamantly believed an outside force compelled them to abandon the easily fixable car and flee into the forest. They wouldn't have fled off in the woods like a bunch of quail, she stated, like convinced someone had held the upper hand. The car's impossible condition. How was the Montego found in immaculate condition without the expected undercarriage damage after traversing such rugged, rocky terrain, especially near midnight? The Eerie witness account. Did the men truly see the shadowy group, the woman and the baby that Joseph Jones reported? And was their detour an attempt to help a distressed family, only to be met with something sinister when their presence was discovered? Though Jones later suggested his memory was likely distorted by his illness, The possibility of this unsettling pre-encounter cannot be dismissed. The logic of death. The most agonizing question remains the untouched supplies. Why did they ignore the abundant heat and food that could have saved their lives, choosing to surrender to starvation and exposure just feet away from salvation? The case of the Yuba County Five is a puzzle made of terror, fear, and ultimate futility. Every piece of evidence that seems to offer an explanation only deepens the terror of the unknown. They embarked on a simple night of sports and laughter, only to become a cipher in the snow, a grim legend of the mountains that will not be forgotten. And somewhere in those endless woods, Gary Mathias's shadow still lingers.